Hello, this is Mike Swanson, and I run the website wallstreetwindow.com. And the odds are that you're watching this video because you got an email from me telling you that it's up on YouTube. Now, if you're not on my email list, you're going to want to get on it so you'll get all my free stock trading updates that typically come out every day before the opening bell. So click the link associated with this video to do that if you're not already on it. It's interesting today. Yesterday was a trading holiday in the United States, and now the stock market opened back up, but it's down today. But that down day is happening after 7 up days in a row. When something just goes up, 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 day after day after day, at some point you got to expect a pullback, and that little dip is happening today. But something interesting happened before the bell, which resulted in a move that most people that saw the news probably were not expecting. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about and what we can learn from it. Because trading these markets is also about learning how things work. So this is today's action at basically roughly 2:30. As you can see, things are down, but not huge. 16, 17 point drop in the S&P when it's at 4,300 doesn't really amount to much at all. But if you're on my email list, you would have saw these top headlines, because that's what I do every morning. I put out through email the most important market moving headlines of the day and ones I'm really watching. So the top headline was the oil price spiked on the open because OPEC had to call off its output talks, which had been going on now for a week. There's an OPEC meeting over the weekend, and they collapsed. The parties were expected to come to agreements on increasing oil production, which of course would increase supply, which could cause oil prices to drop. And to fail to do that would be bullish on oil, right? Because if supply does not increase, that's a bullish factor. So oil was gapping up on the open. And so were most energy stocks. But now as I'm speaking, oil is red, energy stocks are red too. So if we turn to the XLE ETF, we'll see that it's down almost 3%. And I actually own this ETF in my retirement account, and I own many large cap energy stocks. However, these are positions that I bought months ago, I think in December. So I'm not calling a top in oil. I'm not saying sell oil stocks. I own oil stocks, but I bought them months ago. But what I want to talk with you about is the simple fact that this news happened where OPEC talks collapsed. They failed to come to agreement to increase supply. And despite that, oil is down. Energy stocks are down. So what is going on? Why are these things not moving the way one would expect because of these news results? Well, it's a simple reason. And that is that this news was not a secret. It was not a surprise today because it was all in the headlines in regards to these talks over the past week, I think even 10 days. It was clear last week that the OPEC meetings were not really going in a way that would limit supply. There's disagreements about it. The American or the United Arab Emirates really was unwilling to limit their supply. They want to make as much money as they can. And with them not involved, the odds of the talks really resulting in an OPEC deal were very low anyway. Everyone knew that. That was following the oil market. And oil was actually ticking up last week, in fact, into this news. It did that into the news because traders that are real active in the markets they watch what's going on and they look for news events or they look to see signs of things happening that could then hit the headlines. So the headline is hit today, but the rumors in the background, things that led into today's headlines, were well known by those closely following the oil market, not people just simply looking at the CNBC website or turning on CNBC at 8 o'clock. Oil followers knew this a week ago. They were trading into this a week ago. And stock traders that buy the rumor tend to sell the news once the news is out. This also happens with earnings. People who follow a company very closely, close enough to know that earnings are likely to increase on the next quarterly report, they tend to buy such stocks into earnings and then sell when the great earnings news reports are hit. So this is an important factor in how individual stocks, even exchange traded funds, and entire markets at times move. They move ahead of news. So trying to trade news headlines is not a good strategy. You can't really buy bullish news or sell bearish news, because by the time the news hits the headlines, it's already been priced in the market, and people front run the news and then sell it to people who are less sophisticated, who don't really know what's going on and are behind the curve and not ahead of the curve. So what's all this have to do with what can we take away from this? It's a key lesson that you have to know and apply. How do we apply it now? Well, with energy and oil, I don't think we're seeing a mega top, just a short-term pause or pullback. But seasonally, oil tends to rally into July and make some sort of temporary peak, a respite anyway. And we're seeing that across the board in the commodity space. So if we look, for example, at another commodity ETF that I own a position in and have been owning it for beyond this chart, and up quite substantially on it, but it was like $13 last March, the DBA agriculture ETF, and it went above 19, a mega run, and now it's in a sideways range. So something that goes up so much tends to consolidate and go sideways for some period of time. That's what's going on with, generally speaking, commodities across the board. It's actually now been going on with silver and gold. So that's the overall trend in commodities. But let's talk about the stock market. How does this lesson apply to the stock market? Stock market's been putting on a tremendous rally really since last April. And stocks are about to enter earnings season in the next couple of weeks. During earnings season, what tends to happen is stocks will have a short-term rally into their earnings reports. And then once you get into the third week or so of earnings season reports, stocks tend to start to sell the news, especially if these earnings reports are good. Doesn't mean the stock market collapses or something, but you tend to get upward drifting momentum into earnings and then some sort of selling pressure during earnings. It really happened that way in the last two quarterly earnings season. It's most likely going to repeat again in some manner. We're not entering earnings season now, but we're going to be in earnings season by the end of this month. So to me, that means, look, the stock market's down today. A lot of stocks are down today, but most likely traders are not going to bail on the market here. They're going to use dips like today to take some positions ahead of the earnings reports, which will be coming out in the next couple weeks. So I think that's what's going on and how we should look at today's stock market action. And the key headline was oil. So we looked and took an understanding of what's going on there. But interesting things are happening around the world. Inflation is jumping in Turkey, which is going to make it so they're not going to be able to lower rates the way their leader was hoping they would. China is now cracking on their own technology companies. That caused a collapse. Indeed shares, which is a recent IPO, down 25%. It was on this open. Gold this morning bounced up to 1810. Gold went through a correction in June, is now bouncing back up 1800, but is still likely in some sort of consolidation, repair of its recent decline, sort of the type of action I'm expecting happen in March. But when a sector pulls back, like gold did last month, the thing to do is look for the stocks that held up during the decline, because they tend to lead on the upside from then on. And that's what my top stock pick of the month is all about. If you're on my email list, you got it. If you're familiar with my website, you go there. It's on today's top post. If you're not on the email list, get on it, and the first thing you'll get is that information on that top stock pick. So click the link associated with this video and you'll get it. If you're just randomly hitting this from YouTube, you never seen me before on here, then click the subscribe button and you'll get my next update, and click the bell and YouTube will send it to you instantly when it's uploaded, or when I even go live, which I do too, happen to do from some time to time. But a lot of information in here, and you'll get tomorrow's digest before the opening bell with the key headlines of the day. But a lot of stuff going on to talk about later. So click subscribe, and I'll be talking with you later.